Dear colleagues, I would like to extend my best wishes to all of you and my sympathy for anyone who has suffered a loss. I hope you and your families are staying healthy and coping well with our evolving circumstances. Catalonia is a rather small country, 32,000 square kilometers, with more than less 7.5 million inhabitants. It is a nation with a strong personality, with its own history, language and culture, and a legitimate, democratically elected government. It is part of the Mediterranean biodiversity hotspot. We have 650 natural and semi-natural habitats with a high degree of endemicity, covering more than 60% of the territory, and we're also home to more than 33,000 species. Yet it is very vulnerable because of different pressures. Our population is mostly concentrated in the coastal areas. We have intense agricultural, livestock and industrial sectors, and in addition to this, we receive more than 20 million tourists per year. Furthermore, we have a high level of dispersed urban development and a very high dense network of road and any kind of infrastructures. Given these economic characteristics, I'm sure that you realize that the challenges involved in making development compatible with the environment, conservation of biodiversity and climate change are considerable. And this is what we aim to do with the greatest rigor. We are all aware that the world is currently facing challenges of great importance. 5 years ago, all United Member States adopted a global response to these major challenges. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is a call to action to end poverty, to protect the planet, to improve the lives and prospects of everyone and everywhere. Among the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, a few stand out above the rest due to their planetary scope and their global impact on the future of the planet. They are extremely critical and urgent. Climate change, the SDG number 13, and the loss of biodiversity, SDGs 14 and 15. And nowadays, of course, more than ever, good health, SDG number 3. We have been hearing this for years. Scientists have been warning us, but finally it has become obvious that we are in an emergency situation. A climate emergency, we know this, an ecological emergency caused by the loss of biodiversity, increased in turn by global warming, which is one of the greatest causes of the extinction of species and the alteration of their habitats. It's one of the reasons. And a health emergency, which reminds us how interconnected and how interdependent we are on each other, our communities and our planet. A global crisis with unprecedented and unpredictable consequences for the immediate future. Catalonia is an actor committed to the world, we seek to contribute jointly to these global challenges. In this context, the Government of Catalonia, following of course the example of many other governments and the claim of social movements, formally declared in May 2019 a climate and environmental emergency. This is not just a merely formal declaration. Actually, back in 2017, the Parliament of Catalonia passed with a broad consensus, a very innovative and quite unique climate change law, the Catalan Climate Change Law. This has been a turning point and an ambitious response to the climate change challenge, setting, for instance, carbon neutrality and a totally renewable electricity production model by 2050. Over the last 30 years, many important progresses have been made in the field of nature conservation in Catalonia. In addition to enacting and implementing specific legislation on issues such as the Plan for Areas of Natural Interest, which represent more than 30% of our territory, or the establishment, the declaration of 14 natural parks and 1 so-called national park, the Catalogue of Endangered Flora, an innovative Animal Protection Act, and so on. The Catalan government has achieved many other significant milestones, like, for instance, the restoration of degraded natural spaces and the recovery and improvement, this is very important, of the ecological status of river basins in the framework of what we call our Green Infrastructure Program. Or another example, the generation of a very remarkable volume of information by the Biodiversity Data Bank. Extinct or endangered species have been also been recovered here in Catalonia, such as the Corsican gull, the bearded vulture, the small kestrel, the otter, the roe deer, or the brown bear. Indeed, all these are very positive developments, all of these, but indicators and current trends evidence biodiversity loss, and that we need to guarantee the provision of the ecosystem services. I regret to say that according to the Living Planet Index, in just 14 years, the population of 258 species of vertebrates and invertebrates have decreased by a dramatic 22%. This loss affects freshwater and coastal habitats particularly. One of the main achievements of the government in this field was the approval last year of the Catalan Natural Heritage and Biodiversity Strategy 2030, after a wide participation process. The strategy is, of course, aligned with the international framework on the Convention on Biological Diversity and the international and European actions plans that implemented it, specifically the Strategic Plan for Biodiversity 2011-2020 and the EU Biodiversity Strategy 2020. It is the first nature conservation strategy approved by the Government of Catalonia, and it is intended to check the degradation of natural heritage and biodiversity loss, to check it, to guarantee the sustainable use thereof, and to ensure the provision of services from the ecosystems upon, after all, which we depend. The strategy reinforces private conservative initiatives, co-management, land stewardship, and wants to foster public and private collaboration in the field of biodiversity and protected areas management. One of the top priority actions for the first 4-year plan 2019-2022 is the Natural Heritage and Biodiversity Evaluation Report. This will make assess the conservation status of Catalonia's nature based on the best information available on nature taken from the conservation monitoring or the projects performed throughout the territory. The report takes the key indicators into consideration so that the results of the evaluation of this biodiversity conservation status in Catalonia may be compared, this is quite important of course, with the global context. So, I believe that nature has an intrinsic value in itself, as it is life and enables life on Earth. But it is also a powerful driver of local development and economic progress. It also amplifies benefits and opportunities in all sectors, mainly agriculture, livestock, forestry management, but also fishing and maritime activity or energy production, tourism, mining, all kinds of productive sectors. Thus, enhancing the integration of nature conservation objectives in sectorial policies reduces pressures on biodiversity, provides coherence to government action, and after all, improves people's quality of life. Over the last month of lockdown, we have seen images of crystal clear waters in the Venice canals, swans in Milano, kangaroos jumping in the streets of Adelaide, dolphins near our coast, and even wild boars here downtown Barcelona. The truth is that when we people reduce the pressure on nature, as we can see happening now, nature responds positively. The natural world is very resilient and it can restore itself, giving us hope. But we are part of nature. We depend on it and everything that it provides. This should give us a pause for reflection and inspire us to take action as proposed by the 2019 Global Assessment Report on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. We trust that the COP15 will complement and strengthen the decisions and actions already taken for accelerating the path to a more peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. The ongoing international negotiations need to conclude with an ambitious yet realistic, achievable, and flexible framework aligned with the 2030 Agenda and the Paris Agreement. And therefore, we call all UN member states to put in place the political will, the resources, and the policy changes it will take to achieve it. And we, states and regions around the world, aim to participate responsibly in adopting and implementing a new post-2020 framework for biodiversity. Vertical and horizontal integration, ensuring policy coherence, coordination, and cooperation are essential aspects for ensuring its success. Therefore, we call for one of the COP15 decisions to be an updated plan of action of subnational governments, cities, and other local authorities for biodiversity. Catalonia will be there. We have a great deal at stake here. Let's all recognize our respective roles, seize this opportunity, and do our part to preserve the natural world. Let's do it, so after all, we can have a future.